Welcome to another episode of FtLoC, or For the Love of Cars, and thank you for joining us again. This has been, it's been sort of slightly sporadic over recent weeks, simply because we've all been away on holiday, and this week, as you can see, Drew is away on holiday, so I'm afraid you've got me, and in Drew's place we've got Charlie.
Yeah.
So Charlie is going to be helping me sort of sift through the news, and more pertinently some of the films that we've been doing and we've released this week, particularly the Chiron film, because you were on the Chiron film and you edited it very nicely and carefully, and
thank you very much.
Over plenty of time.
Yeah,
so
a lot of time.
We'll go through that and some of the comments that were left below it as well, so try and answer some of your questions. So without further ado, Drew always said, what did he say? He says we need to subscribe and notifications, bell icons, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
At Carfection Films on Instagram, at Carfection on Twitter.
Handles. Just look for Carfection and click like and everything. Just click all the buttons. Anyway, news. So I'm going to start with the new BMW Z4, which was unveiled amongst other cars, which we'll come to at Pebble Beach. To me, it looks a little bit like the Fiat 124 Spider. Particularly that front end. The rear looks quite like a sort of squashed version of the old Z4. Looks pretty good, but the front's not entirely sure about that. So it is got a folding fabric roof, which I think is quite nice. We're not going for
saves 30 kilos.
30 kilos
off the old hardtop folding roof.
There we go.
Or maybe was it 60? It could be 60.
I think I had 50, so it saves some weight that is not insignificant over the, and of course it's saving weight high up as well, which is always important. So it's going to bring the centre of gravity, the CFG, down, which is good. Yeah. They unveiled the Z4 M40i first edition. There will obviously be other models in the lineup. This one had a 3-litre straight six. Always good. Classic BMW, really. Can't go wrong with that. 340 brake horsepower, 0-62 in 4.6 seconds, which is rapid enough, isn't it? Yeah. Get the wind in your hair. And importantly for us, it's got an M Sport differential, which is definitely a good thing. And there are rumours that some of them are going to get a manual gearbox as well, which would be... we like a manual gearbox.
Yeah,
we do like a manual gearbox. So, of course, and as you pointed out before,
yes, it's being developed at the same plant, or built at the same plant as the Supra is being built, or Toyota's sports car. Do you think it will be sort of Boxster Cayman territory, or? That's
what we want, isn't it? Really, I think that's what you kind of want from BMW. You know, they're meant to produce the ultimate driving machine, and potentially as well, it's got folding fabric roof rather than the folding hardtop. Then that leaves the way open for. I mean, we've seen the Supra is obviously going to be a coupe, so potentially we could get Z4 coupe and an M coupe. That would be good, wouldn't
cool.
it? Yeah. Actually, talking of BMWs, I'm going to go into the race news. We'll come back to the other news in a second, because MotoGP. Did you see it?
No.
I had it on for a few hours. Sort of, it was originally going to take place at like 11:30 in the morning at Silverstone, and then it just kept getting postponed through the day. And there seemed to be a massive problem with the track.
Yeah, I did actually read about that.
The weather was pretty terrible.
It's the new surface, or
yeah, exactly. But the most entertaining thing about it was actually watching the BMW M4 safety car drifting around the track. Intentionally or unintentionally, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure it had a great deal of choice given how spiky M4s we know can be in the wet. But that was pretty entertaining. There was other motorsport news over the weekend. So we had the F1.
I watched that.
You did watch that?
Yes, I did watch that.
Excellent. Did you watch the race or did you watch qualifying?
I watched the race. I didn't watch the qualifying.
Oh, wrong way round, I'm afraid.
Well, the first maybe 5 minutes of the race was definitely worth watching, but after that, it sort of everyone fell into their places, really.
It was terrifying, that accident, wasn't it? When we first saw it, it was just one of those. I think everybody held their breath, hoping that it was going to be all right. There have been lots of critics of Halo, and after the trouble is, and it was always going to be the way that after an accident like that, you can no longer criticise it because it potentially.
They showed a shot of the damage actually on the. Yeah, if you saw that, and it obviously impacted on the Halo. So
yeah. Absolutely.
You can't really argue with that.
Yeah, and to be honest, Halo, I don't know about you, but it was one of those things. Pretty much after the first race, you just get used to it.
Yeah, you forget about it.
I would say qualifying was better to watch. Well, to be fair, Q3 was the best time to watch because the rain came down, and Lewis put in one of those typical Lewis Hamilton laps. I mean, he is somebody we really should be celebrating as a driving talent for the ages, one of the all-time greats, because laps like he pulled out of the bag round a wet Spa is something to behold. I mean, Kimi was also on fire. He loves Spa, and reminds everybody what a massive talent he is. WRC was on, the last round was in Germany. Thank you, whoever said that. Germany. Why can I remember that? And Ott Tanak, since we last did a FtLoC and I spoke about it, Ott Tanak has been on fire. He's won the last 2 rounds, 1 gravel, 1 tarmac, and if he has another rally like that, he's 11 points behind Ogier at the moment, who's in turn is about 20 points behind Neuville, and it's looking like it could well turn out to be a 3-way race for the title this year. It's fantastic seeing Ott Tanak coming back in, and that Toyota hopefully getting a bit more reliability. It's because you went out and saw them.
I did, yeah.
Oh,
and I haven't followed much after that, if I'm perfectly honest.
Just before we go back to, we'll stay on motorsport for just 1 second, because I watched last night the highlights from the Isle of Man TT Classic. Did you see that?
I didn't see that either.
No, missed that? Oh,
no.
I can't believe you missed that. But just simply to say, it was so obviously John McGuinness took the senior in that on a Patton, which has been a very successful bike in that race. But it was he's come back from breaking what must have felt like basically every bone in his body. He broke legs and thumbs and back and all sorts of things, and it's been a long old road to recovery. And I think perhaps some people thought, probably not him, I'm sure, but lots of people thought he might never race around the Isle of Man again, but he was back there at the Classic TT and took a dominant victory on that bike, which was, I don't think anybody would begrudge him that. It was amazing to see. Tough breed, road racers, another breed really. Anyway, back to the main car news. Aston Martin, bit of Aston Martin news. 2 things.
Yes.
Start off with the one that I feel totally out of my depth with. Aston is going to float on the stock exchange. So from what I've read, up to about £1 billion worth of shares is going to be floated on stock exchange. So it depends obviously how the company's valued overall, but that could be up to about a quarter of the company.
5 billion potentially is what I read on the BBC.
Okay, so
it could be valued at 5. Could value the company at 5 billion.
So we'll go between 4 and 5 billion,
something around that,
which £1 billion worth of shares will potentially be floated. And currently it's a mixture of Italian and Kuwaiti investors that own Aston Martin, plus a few other smaller investors. They had announced, fairly obviously, so they've been being keen to announce all their profit increases and stuff like that. So their half-year financial results have just been announced, and they showed a 14% increase with profits up to £20.8 million, which sounds like a lot of money.
But they're exploring lots of areas at the moment to bring all that cash in, aren't they? Like personal submarine. And have you heard they're doing the Aston Martin residences in Miami?
No.
This skyscraper in Miami.
Really?
Called Aston Martin residences.
Wow.
Yeah, and
you're gonna be able to park a car.
You can buy a studio. I think is about $500,000 up to about 38 million or something for the penthouse. Ridiculous.
Wow. So now you can live in your Aston Martin. That was used to the old thing, wasn't it? You can't can't drive your house, but you can live in your car.
The idea behind it is the door handles and stuff will be like Aston Martin design.
Wow.
Yeah. So there you go.
Perhaps they'll do some Bond themed ones, because that will bring us on to the next kind of sort of one, which Aston's obviously announced it's going to produce 25 DB5 Goldfinger cars. So in the same way they did the DB4 GT continuation, which you can see a video of me driving up on site. I love that car. Go and watch that film. Not many people watch that film. I don't know why.
No.
Because it's
nicely
very
shot
cool, and it's such a cool car. So go and find it. It's just there's some lovely slow-mo shots of it drifting around Snetterton. So yeah, go and look that up. But they're producing 25 of these, as they did with DB4 GT continuation, and they're obviously going to be recreations of the iconic silver birch coloured DB5, which has appeared in first appeared in Goldfinger. Since appeared, it was GoldenEye, I think it appeared in, because it was with a race with the 355 above Monaco just after he'd jumped off the dam. It's going to have some gadgets on it as well. They haven't really said what gadgets it's going to have, so we assume it's going to have a revolving number plate.
Yes,
that must be fairly easy to do.
bulletproof.
Bulletproof rear screen.
That
had up. And obviously you had the sort of the bits that would spray oil out behind.
And the spikes, tyre spikes or something, I think.
It came out of the hubs as well. So you like sort of knockoff wheel hubs that would sort of
quite
raise
dangerous,
it.
Isn't it?
And obviously the machine guns out of the front bumper when they flip down and came out the front. And of course the ejector seat.
Oh yeah.
They've got to do the gear stick with the button.
Yeah, I was going to say the button, and maybe it's a sunroof different. Or something.
Yeah, it's going to cost 3.3 million each one.
That's a lot.
Which is a lot. It's even more than the 1.5. Well, it's double the 1.5 million that they charge for the DB4
Have they sold them all already?
I'm pretty sure they will have done. They're actually going to be 25 plus 3 more. So Aston's keeping one for itself. Fair enough. Eon, who produce
the
Bond films, is getting one because they're helping out with the car. And then one's going to be auctioned off for charity, at which point you sort of go, well, that's great, isn't
Fair
it?
enough,
Because if anything makes some money for charity, then that's obviously good. They won't, of course, be road registered.
And there's no way of someone who buys it. There's no way they can road register it either, is there? Because is it?
Sort of
I don't know.
A single vehicle, whatever it is. I don't know.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame, isn't it? Other things unveiled at Pebble Beach: the 488 Pista, Ferrari 488 Pista Spider. So it's a drop-top version of the 488 Pista.
I completely missed that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, it was white and had a blue stripe down the middle. And they are saying that it's got the same powertrain. Ferrari hasn't been brilliant in the past at actually making terribly structurally rigid spiders, so I've sort of been a bit disappointed by some of them in the past, but hopefully they've solved it with 488. The other thing unveiled though is the Bugatti Devo.
Yes, heard lots about that.
Yes. Sounds a bit like Diva, but it's named after Albert Devo, who was a racing driver who won Targa Florio twice for Bugatti. Based on the Chiron, and it's going to cost 5 million euros, which is basically double what a Chiron costs.
Crazy.
And they're only building 40 of them, but the rear wing is 23% wider apparently, so that's going to look pretty amazing because it's already a big old thing. Tweak steering, so be slightly sharper, increased camber. Apparently it will be homologated as a road car, so it's not going to be like the DB5 Goldfinger. It's going to be able to be out there on the road, which I didn't expect actually. I saw it and thought it was going to be a track day special. What do you think?
I prefer the looks of the Chiron over the Devo personally, but I mean,
I agree.
I'm not. I mean, will we get a drive in that ever?
I don't know.
We'll be able to find out, because that would be quite cool.
It would, yeah. Talking of which leads us on to our Bugatti Chiron film. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the comments about it. Once I saw even the first rough draft that Charlie sent me, I was so chuffed because Charlie had done a brilliant job, and it conveyed to me what I wanted to get across about the car. And I talked a lot about the handling of the car and what it's like on a twisty road as opposed to in a straight line. So exactly what they've tried to do with the Devo. But I mean, go and watch the film. But it really does handle B road incredibly well. Certainly the one that we found, and was much better than I think even I thought it would be. Much more fun actually, and it's like I said in the film, it's a bit like a monstrous Fiat. And no, it's not as light and nimble as other cars, and something arguably like a Renault Alpine A110 or something like that, that's, you know, a fraction of the weight. Perhaps it would be more fun, but the point of the matter is that you've got this 1500 horsepower, and the question is whether you can use that in that setting and it still be enjoyable, or whether it's just a case of you pot around the corners, squirt it down the next straight, and then wait again. So whether it's this sort of enjoyment, frustration, or whether it's actually you can make it flow down the road and still use all that power. And yes, you're going to have to make some allowance of the weight. You can't get around that. It's a 2-ton car. You're never going to be able to get around that. But if it can still be enjoyable and you can, you know, exercise that sort of power on that sort of road, then it becomes its own thing. And I think it does have a place. It becomes its own exercise, and it's certainly was. It was really enjoyable. We thought we'd have a look at some of the comments below and a couple of questions. One of the things, as I mentioned, that Jean Bugatti was sadly killed avoiding a cyclist. I should point out that it was a drunk cyclist, and therefore it was really a drunk on a bicycle rather than a cyclist. So
it wasn't the cyclist's fault.
It was a drunk that just happened to be riding a bicycle. It wasn't a sort of
wasn't the bike's
no, exactly.
fault
It wasn't
in any way.
Somebody in
it was just an idiot essentially, because there's a lot of blame on the on cyclists in the comments.
Absolutely, which as a cyclist is going to really I felt pretty bad about that, to be honest. I mean, there I am sort of to be a cycling and motoring journalist, and I suddenly feel like I've opened up a whole rift between people. So there we are. Yes, blame the drunks, not the cyclists, please. So, going to the comments, Dom Kane, so good to see Stephen Merchant doing well after working with Ricky Gervais. Thanks very much, Tom. That's
I saw that. I don't really see it though.
Yeah,
Stephen Merchant.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind. Venom 5809. I've been lucky enough to have been in a couple of Veyrons, and I love the Chiron, but I have to honestly ask, how is it worth double plus the price of a Veyron? I just don't see it. It's a good question, and I kind of agree. It's hard to see where it's in terms of the sort of quality. Has it been a step change in quality? No, because the Veyron was extraordinary. If you ever sat in one of those and pressed the buttons, that was equally phenomenal sit-in. And I love the thing, one of the things we tried to get across is the fact that the interior has a simplicity to it, because they know that this is going to have quite a long shelf life by the time they've built all 500 Chirons. And it was the same for the Veyron. I mean, that was out for ages and ages. So they didn't put a sat-nav screen in there that's going to look horribly outdated. The market has moved on in that time.
I mean, when did the Veyron come out?
It was 2000.
I was going to say 5
or 5, I think, wasn't it? So well over a decade ago.
So yeah, I mean, there's also inflation in that. I mean, it's not double the price, but yeah, I agree. The market has moved on, and
I think it's a case of what people will pay for this sort of car. I mean, at the time, obviously, they struggled to sell Veyrons by the sounds of it, really, hence all the special editions and that sort of thing. But subsequently, we had the Holy Trinity, as they got called, LaFerrari 918 and P1, and they sort of triggered. Initially, I think they struggled to sell some of those, not Ferrari, obviously, because they have the magic touch of being able to sell these things, but subsequently, once people realised, and it obviously helped with the car market booming and people speculating on these things, suddenly the price for all these things, just what people were prepared to pay, increased no end. And Bugatti has, I don't want to say cashed in on that, but it's just, I suppose, if you're going to make something as well that stands out, and you're going to say this is the best, this is the pinnacle, then you have to charge like it's the best. Next question we've got from Pim and Max, both really asked the same thing. Amazing video, thank you very much indeed. Amazing videography. What camera set are you using? Which cameras used making this piece of art? GH5s, red C200s. Well, I think I can take this one because sorry, Charlie. What did you use?
Well, firstly, there were two of us. It was George and myself shooting, and the main camera we use is Sony FS7, which, if people are into cameras, should probably know is what it is, because I would say it's probably one of the most common cameras, sort of professional cameras, low-level professional. It's nothing like cinema cameras like your Reds, which Pim mentioned there. We don't shoot on Red because it's just far too difficult to even begin to comprehend how to carry that kind of fully rigged Red around like we did on GT2 RS. Shot one film with it, but we won't be doing it all the time. But yeah, FS7, GH5 is an amazing little camera. If anyone's Panasonic, yeah, Panasonic GH5. If anyone's even considering to sort of start getting into video at all, that's like a great entry level. It'll do everything that you need it to do. So those two cameras, yeah, spot on really. We have one on a small little gimbal, so we can move around quickly, because of course we only had 12 hours with the car really,
probably
to shoot the whole film.
That, but yeah.
So we can never travel with all the gear we'd like, but being able to have 2 cameras with quite light setups means we can, you know, run up and down the road quite a lot, get all the shots we need.
And of course the drone as well.
And the drone.
Yeah.
Drone's important. Never want to overuse a drone, but putting 2-3 great drone shots in there can really add something to it, I'd say. It's also worth mentioning you need to be very careful where you place cameras on cars like this, because they are very expensive. So with the Chiron, I would love to do loads of bolt-on shots on the outside, but because it was bare carbon, we were told we weren't allowed to put any cameras actually on those areas that there was bare carbon. Some had the paint protection film on it, which is why there's only a very few bolt-on angles. But you know, what can you do?
What can you do?
You don't want to damage 2.5.
No, you don't really do. It's kind of actually sort of so. Somebody else asked that. I don't know. Says that's his handle. I think he doesn't know how much that car costs. Otherwise, he wouldn't have driven that fast. Well, I mentioned how fast or how much it costs in the first sentence of the film, pretty much. So I did know how much it cost. But it's a fair point, because obviously some of these cars do cost a huge amount of money, and more than I'm probably likely ever to earn in my entire life. So how do you get over that? Does it intimidate you? Yes, to some extent. Certainly when I started doing this job, you can't get away from that fact, and is sort of might nag at you a little bit, but you have to get away from it, because otherwise I can't do my job properly, I think, really, in terms of you respect any car, because it's at the end of the day, it's somebody else's property. It's my own Escort, I can do what I like with it, but you have to kind of remember that it is just a car at the end of the day, and it will understeer or oversteer, and you know, it's 4-wheel drive or it's rear-wheel drive or it's front-wheel drive, and the engine's in a certain place. So once you know all these things, you can start to understand what it's like and what it's probably likely to do, I suppose, in certain situations, and that helps you to push it. And yeah, it's
also down to capability, really. I mean, if you put me in a Chiron, there's no chance I'd be driving like that, because I would probably be going up 20 miles an hour everywhere. I'd be terrified. But if you've driven these cars like this before, like the Veyron and even other supercars, then I'm sure you have more confidence in doing it and not having an accident. Yeah,
and the other thing is to say that, you know, I generally, basically whatever I do, it's you get into these cars and you start off, you build up to it. You know, you don't just jump straight in and try and drive it as fast as you can down a piece of road, because that would be irresponsible, and you miss so much if you try and do that as well. You want to know what the car's like at low speeds and get used to the steering weight and how it transitions its mass around, and just understand the car. Next question. Oh, now I don't know how to say this one. This is all run together, so it could be oven or way, or it could be Ove Norway, possibly. Anyway, question for Henry. You have driven both this and the McLaren F1, different cars from different times, I know, but if you had to choose, what would you pick?
Interesting question.
Yeah. What would you pick, Charlie?
McLaren F1.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have to be the McLaren F1.
I haven't driven either, but just British. It is the original hypercar for me.
Yeah, I think it's sort of, for me, I mean, I grew up revering the McLaren F1. I've been lucky enough to drive a couple, and there is nothing like that engine in particular. The sound of it, the seating position in it, it's and the attention to detail. You can compare the two to some extent. I think as much, you know, there's different. They're going about things in different ways, but the engineering detail in both cars is enormously impressive. Very nice video, says Roger. I don't buy that it wouldn't be able to deploy its power surge effectively if it was lighter. Argument at all, though. Sure, a heavier car pushes the tyres hard down into the tarmac. The benefits of this are generally overridden by the disadvantages of the effects of the inertia caused by the weight and anything you want the car to do: accelerate, brake, steer. And Albo Pastrami also said great vid, but the more weight helps point from Bugatti is BS. Yes, it'll help in some aspects, but overall lower weight, it will always be preferential. And yes, I suppose that's what I meant, and what they mean is the fact that obviously a lot of what defines this car is the straight line figures, and that's where the weight does help. No, of course, on a twisting piece of road, lighter weight is going to be better, but I definitely heard this from Nissan as well in terms of the GTR, just in terms of actually getting that traction, which is what Chiron is known for, and that sheer accelerative force. Once the tyres are up to temperature, not that much temperature in either, it can take full throttle in first gear. I mean, to do that, you need a certain amount of weight pushing the tyres into the tarmac, and so that's what I was getting at. No, of course, yes, the braking and the steering and all that sort of thing aren't going to be helped by extra weight, but purely in terms of going fast in a straight line, that's where if it weighed 300 kilos less, then it would be slower. The other film, Luftgekühlt, I want to talk about, which was down at Bicester Heritage, which I think I failed to mention in the film actually where it was.
Yeah, I think someone was asking.
Up on that. So yeah, sorry about that. I should have mentioned it was at Bicester Heritage. It's a great place to wander around, and a perfect setting for this Luftgekühlt exhibition, which is a show of old air-cooled Porsches. Luftgekühlt meaning air-cooled, and it's been across on the west coast of America for 5 times, I think, and then this is perhaps this is the 5th one. It was the first one in the UK anyway. And Jess Vaught, who sort of positions all the Halo cars in this just beautifully in terms of sort of framing them up, and we tried to capture some of that in the film, and we interviewed him about it in the rain. And that, I think, brings us to the end of this FtLoC. You've survived. Well done, Charlie. Please, once again, subscribe, like, check us out on Instagram. We're doing quite a few more Instagram stories. Drew's been doing quite a lot of Ask Me Anything things. He's been very good at that.
Yes, he has.
Thank you very much for watching and or listening. We really do appreciate it, and keep the comments coming.